Hey, my name is Dale. This is July 9th, 2021, and this is my story. Going back to when I was 9, maybe 10 years old, my dad would take me to wrestling at the Jackson Coliseum. I don't have a lot of memories of my dad taking me because, for some odd reasons, I don't have a lot of memories of my dad. But I know from what I've heard what a lot of the activities we did, they were fun. You know what's crazy? I remember the very first match that I ever saw. It was against Buddy Wayne Peel and Dandy Jack Donovan. It was the opening match on the card that night, and I have no idea who else was on the card. I just know it was a Wednesday night, and it was 1969. So that actually would have put me at 7 years old the first time I went to the Coliseum. Over the course of years, after my dad had his wreck, a gentleman next door to us and his son, who was a good friend of mine, he would take us to wrestlings on Wednesday night, and we had a blast. We sat in general admission, and we would really get involved and get engrossed in what we thought was real. Little did we know till years later it was a well told storyline, kind of like what a soap opera, if you will. Over the last few months, I've really had a good time because being that let's see, I'm 59. A lot of those wrestlers that are still alive are well into their 70s, and a lot of them are doing podcasts because now the book on wrestling is open, if you will, and I got to learn a lot of the backstory, what all goes on the business side of it, the preparation for a match, how a match is controlled, how the outcomes are determined. And the big thing in wrestling, if you're trying to really get some legs under you, is you've got to learn to create heat, a pop by the audience, get the audience going. And usually the best opportunity for that is if you're a heel, is their terminology, or a bad guy. Because the audience loves to hate the bad guy. So if you've got heat, then you're probably making decent money, and promotions around the country were trying to get you for a week or two to come in and make appearances, in their territory. So it's a good memory. I love it. And one of the cool things, when I was 10 years old, I've got a picture. I wish I had it with me. I'd show it to you. I got a picture of me standing beside Andre the Giant. I literally probably came up to his waist, maybe below. What a huge individual, and what a big-hearted man. And such a tragedy the last few years of his life, how he lived in such severe pain. But it's kind of neat once the book was opened on wrestling, and you start to realize that this was a career for these men. They had lives, they had families, and what really impressed me the most is the blood was real. They learned during the match how to just simply prick their head, and because there was so much sweat, it looked like they were bleeding profusely, when the truth is they really weren't. But the number one goal of a wrestler was to protect your opponent. Even though it looks like they're getting the crap beat out of each other, the goal for them was to make sure that their opponent really didn't get hurt. Now, a lot of injuries happened because some of the bumps they took, they were hard bumps. When you do a body slam on somebody, that canvas is wood. But I learned a lot about life watching wrestling as a kid, and now as an adult, learning the backstory of it, and what all preparation goes into it, and how much you've got to control the creative content of your character, because you're a brand builder. And so true in each of our lives that we're the creative genius behind our own brand. And it's up to us to create the heat, to create that pop, if you will. I was given a speech years ago to a group of business people, and one of the things that I always talk about is, regardless where you work or how much money you make, your goal should always be to do the best I can possibly do. It doesn't matter if you like your boss, like your company, like your coworkers. That's really irrelevant. Uh, what's relevant is your ability to build your brand and elevate yourself above others. Basically, to create heat in life to where other industries, other people desire what you have. And that's how you create value in your life. And I've really given that a lot of thought over the last few weeks. So I don't know where you're at in your life. Obviously, this is me telling my story and remembering, my childhood fun and fantasy of going to wrestling first with my dad, and then after my dad had his car wreck, my neighbor and his son, and how you just get so engrossed in the story they're telling him, because the wrestler's job was to sell. What I mean by that is to sell you on the story that they're telling. And if they do a good enough job of it and you buy it, then you'll come back the next week and the week after that and the week after that and the week after that. And, that's true in relationships, in our professional and personal lives. I hope that as you go about listening to me and you're hearing my story, that you start thinking about how some of the lessons that I impart on you as I endear myself to you, that you can take what I learn and use everything in your past as a stepping stone, not an obstacle. Because one thing, especially with stage 4 metastatic cancer, I don't feel like I have the ability to wait for an event to happen before I make my move in life. I feel like now that there's urgency. There should have been urgency all along, but now there's a little bit more urgency than there used to be, and life is serious. Now, I love a little comic relief every now and then, and that comic relief may be me, it may be something else, it may be something I witness, but regardless, as serious as life is, every now and then you need that pause, that comma, to where we can just take a little bit of a breath and look around and go, you know what? I got this. I was telling a story to a group of people a couple of weeks back, and you've probably heard me if you've listened to me over the years. One day we're all going to be laying flat on our back, and our heads going to be facing up, and people are going to be walking by going, doesn't he look good? He sure was a good man. And at that point, there's only two questions you're left to be answered. And that's, I'm glad I did, or I wish I had. And I hope when that day comes that people are staring down at me saying I was a good man, I hope that if there's any consciousness left after this life, I hope I can say, I'm glad I did. Because I don't want to go to my grave going, I wish I had. So many people that I know that died at a young age, or missed wonderful opportunities. So many people die with their music in them. And it's not that they want to, it's they're afraid to let their music be heard. I hope that's not you, because the only way we can live our authentic self is to let our music out, let our story be told, let our heart be felt. Everybody's not going to agree with the direction that that our life goes, or who we feel like or think that we are. But I got a friend that is a cross-dresser. And it's interesting because a lot of people perceive him as gay, and he's not. Matter of fact, he's a career military guy. Obviously, he's not a cross-dresser at work. But I remember when he shared with me that he was a cross-dresser, and he was so depressed and so suicidal, but yet he had the courage to live his authentic self. I didn't understand it. I still don't understand it, and that's totally irrelevant. But fast forward 10 years, still a cross-dresser, actually in public, and a new group of friends have embraced him. His life is really good. He's loving life, living large. His career is doing wonderful. He's probably nearing retirement now, and I know that's an odd story for authenticity, but let's take maybe your life's a little simpler than that. What's keeping you from living your authentic self? tomorrow I want to share a story with you. If I remember, because my story, I've got so many life stories I want to tell, but I want to share my story of where my authenticity began. And it's not what you think. Because for years I had involvement in my community, I had involvement in my business, I had involvement in my church. I felt like that I was having to live a life that other people wanted me to live, not who I wanted to live. Now, mind you, my authentic self is probably better than the person that I was living. I don't like politics. I don't like religion. I don't like anything that divides us as a human race. So my authentic journey would be multiple stories in my book of life. But today I just want to impart you on how I was started, understanding and building my brand, knowing that the only person that was going to elevate my self-worth was me. And if I did a good enough job elevating and building my self-worth, I would get recognized. Other people would see me, and they would want what I had. So hopefully with that little nugget, you can glean some wisdom out of it. So I'll stop there because I like to keep these short because I just want you to think about it. But keep looking at this, what's behind me. When you feel like quitting, remember why you started. And the main thing is, you don't have to you don't have to be great to finish, but you got to start to be great. So don't quit before you start. And for goodness sakes, if you feel like you got something worth fighting for, don't quit at all. Love you guys and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.